On the other hand, Russia has independently chosen the path of war. Nothing justified the war. No real threat, only fakes. Through a complete disregard for the truth, with reflexes and instincts characteristic of a state that cannot come to terms with its own history, imperialist and neo-colonial instincts. Today, only Russia has decided to continue this war and even intensify it. You have been constantly demonstrating your real readiness to enter into a truce since May, and all that can be said, all the efforts of recent months, everything is ready to move towards this truce. Only Russia continues the war. And the intensification of strikes on Ukraine's critical infrastructure is further proof of this cynicism and this aggressiveness, because every attack on civilians today is proof that Russia is pursuing the goal of taking control of your territory and not acting in accordance with the obligations it has undertaken. And when Russia says it wants peace and accuses others of hindering it, no one believes it anymore. Russia is an actor in this war. And today this dependence, one might say, Russia's addictive dependence on war, inclines us to become more determined and peace-minded. And this peace must be made by all of us, all Europeans. We must leave no opportunity unexplored, no effort unmade, together with all our European partners, with all the member countries of the coalition of the willing that we initiated here in Paris in July. And with the United States. And with all countries of goodwill that believe in the values of the UN Charter and that approach their obligations to maintain peace with responsibility. And we demonstrated this determination in the first two important moments of your visit. First, at the airbase in Villacoublay, we signed a declaration of intent regarding Ukraine's acquisition of defensive equipment. We base this declaration on the strengthening of our defense cooperation in the context of Russia's aggressive war, as well as on our commitment from the first day of the war to help Ukraine defend itself and strengthen its army and defense potential within the framework of various coalitions led by us, but in which we have actively participated. Whether in the field of artillery or air defense, strengthening the Air Force, Mirages, Caesars, all of this exists, it has proven itself, and it is the foundation of this cooperation. Now we are moving to a new step, to the rapprochement and integration of our defense industries in order to support Ukraine, the modernization of its armed forces, which remain the first line of defense and deterrence of aggression. We will do this in the long term. And we also understand that the regeneration of the Ukrainian armed forces is precisely our defense capability. That is why we have launched such bilateral cooperation and are planning for the next 10 years regarding the acquisition, development, and production of UAVs, UAV interceptors, and guided bombs. And this is about the deliveries that we plan for a 2-year perspective and for 10 years ahead. Next, regarding the acquisition of new SAM-T air defense systems of the latest generation. Right now it is still a development, but we agreed that this particular development could be the first to be deployed in Ukraine and operate in Ukraine. Ukraine already knows the characteristics of this system, SAM-T, but now it will have new, enhanced characteristics. And then another step is an agreement for 100 Rafale aircraft with full weapons. This is an additional step, after the Mirage 2000 aircraft were transferred and the training of pilots for the Mirage 2000s was carried out. Now the new step is the acquisition of 100 Rafale aircraft with the corresponding training programs for crews and pilots. So our bilateral cooperation will strengthen, and we will also strengthen the aspect of joint production in Ukraine, in particular the production of UAVs and drone interceptors. After that, we will have a separate event, a forum on UAVs, because this is a determinant, a defining moment for the future of Ukraine. Today we see what we can and how we can use our shared potential for the benefit of Ukraine and Europe. We also jointly visited today, as part of this visit, the headquarters of the multinational coalition forces in support of Ukraine. This headquarters has been operating for several weeks, located near Paris under the command of France and Great Britain. This headquarters is the result of our work on security guarantees within the coalition of the willing. I remind you that it is France and Great Britain that preside over this coalition of the willing. We have come up with an action plan, and also 60 planning integrators are working and based in Paris as of today, and they are coordinating specific contributions to the coalition's work on the forces. The goal is the deployment of forces to guarantee security in areas far from the front line after a ceasefire, as well as supporting Ukraine in the regeneration and restoration of the armed forces of Ukraine, in order to prevent and counter the possibility of new aggression. I want to emphasize that we are ready, that everything is progressing according to plan, and for Christmas we plan to move to a new stage in the deployment work. Our visit also confirms that our support is not limited to the military sphere. All the agreements we signed today, as well as the work of the coalition, we are already laying the groundwork for the opportunity to continue accompanying Ukraine on this path. But again, our support is not limited to the military sphere. It also has a civil, economic and humanitarian character. Intergovernmental agreements to strengthen bilateral cooperation were signed in a number of strategic sectors, and the resumption of the bilateral Critical Infrastructure Support Fund was also approved, in particular, support for the energy sector. I also welcome the signing of a contract between Alstom and Ukrainian Railways worth €475 million for the supply of 55 locomotives, financed by the EBRD and the World Bank. These locomotives, which will be manufactured in Belfort, are a concrete manifestation of our long-term economic and strategic partnership in support of a key player in strengthening Ukraine's resilience. We also reaffirmed the need to create conditions for a ceasefire and a just and lasting peace. And we need to act in two directions: increasing support for Ukraine, increasing pressure on Russia to agree to peace. At the European level, we continue to work to meet Ukraine's financial needs for the next 2 years, as promised by the European Council on the 23rd of October. Discussions are ongoing on a reparations loan. There is a path that is consistent with international law, and we continue to work to ensure risk sharing with our international partners, in particular under the G7. We are also working on the terms of our support, in particular on the use of funds that should contribute to supporting Ukraine's military and defense efforts, strengthening the integration of the European and Ukrainian industrial and defense bases with clear criteria for European preference. Support for Ukraine's budget expenditures should be accompanied by tight conditions. This is how the EU can and should continue to provide Ukraine with predictable and stable long-term financial support. We will achieve this, including, if necessary, by looking for new ways, as we have done on other occasions. So, this is support for Ukraine, and it is a signal that we are not tired. There is no European fatigue. We are also determined to continue to strengthen sanctions against Russia, in cooperation with the United States, to weaken its ability to continue hostilities. This also applies to the Russian shadow fleet, against which we continue to mobilize and strive to improve the coordination of our actions to prevent its functioning. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize once again that Ukraine belongs to the European family not only geographically, but also in terms of its values, history and courage. The path to the European Union will be difficult, requiring significant efforts and deep reforms, in particular in the areas of the rule of law, transparency, governance and the fight against corruption. But I believe in the determination of the Ukrainian people to see these reforms through to the end, and I have confidence in President Zelensky that he will accomplish this. France will accompany this process with constancy, demandingness, trust, and openness, because a strong democratic Ukraine integrated into the European Union will make Europe itself stronger. Volodymyr, Mr. President, I want to tell you, and through you, the Ukrainian people, France is on your side. Together with our partners, we continue to work for a just and lasting peace that complies with international law and ensures the security of a sovereign, independent, free and European Ukraine.